Konnichiwa, this is AMJapan.
Hi, this is AMJapan, and I'm Andy. I'm here in Osaka, and I'm here with Mike.
Hi, how are you doing, Andy? I'm here in Shiga.
Yeah, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's starting to warm up. We got spring coming, so it's nice.
Yeah, we've just had the cherry blossoms out, but unfortunately we can't really go and look at the cherry blossoms this year.
Right.
And that is due to the coronavirus COVID-19 situation that's happening here in Japan. And so today, our first episode, we thought we would talk about what's on everyone's minds at the moment, and that is, the COVID-19 situation. And so we're here on the ground in Japan, and we want to share to viewers or listeners outside of Japan just what it's like here on the ground, because I'm sure you'll see what's in the news and that, but we want to tell you what it's like living here, what we're experiencing, and we're going to share that with you today. So, Mike, can you give us a brief rundown of just where we are at the moment with this COVID-19 situation, please?
Well, we started the lockdown. I guess the Prime Minister announced it today.
Yes.
He said we're going to go into lockdown, but we're not going into lockdown yet. See, he announced it and he said, okay, we're going to go into lockdown from Wednesday.
Yep.
For some of you, not for everyone.
Okay, so whereabouts are going to be locked down?
The places being locked down are Tokyo, Kanagawa, Saitama, Chiba, Fukuoka, Osaka, and Hyogo. I think that's everything.
Okay, so as I said in the intro, I'm based in Osaka, so that directly affects me.
It does.
Are you affected by that, Mike?
Not at all, because we don't have COVID-19 out in the countryside. Apparently.
Well, maybe the government thinks it's not a hot spot.
Hey. I know where you're going with that.
But
we are just as important. But no.
But can you tell me about this? Can you tell me exactly what's happening with this lockdown? Because from the news I read, it's not exactly a lockdown as the same as happening in other countries.
No, it's not. No. It's kind of deja vu with what happened in Italy at first. You know, you had Lombardo province went into lockdown, and the Italian government thought that they would contain it just by locking down that area. And lo and behold, it spread because the government, they said they were going to lock it down. And so people left and they took it with them. And I think that's what's going to happen here too, because we have the Prime Minister announcing it today. He said we're going to go into lockdown on Wednesday. But it's not even like a mandatory lockdown. It's a voluntary lockdown.
So what does a voluntary lockdown mean?
Oh, it just means you should stay at home. Although I don't even want to call it legislation, this kind of decree by the Prime Minister, it's just more for advice. He's giving us advice. He's saying you should stay home. However, by law, there is absolutely no penalty for anyone who disregards the lockdown order, and there's no fine or penalty to any business that decides to stay open. So it's almost meaningless, really, because there's no enforcement of it.
It sounds a bit that way. Like I'm sure the listeners can hear from my accent, but I'm from Australia, and in Australia, well, yeah, I know, shocking, right? But
what part of Australia, for anyone who doesn't know?
I'm from Melbourne, so yes, the home of the best coffee in Australia and possibly the world. Now,
and I'm from Canada, if you couldn't
which
tell.
is obviously not really important, though.
No, that's...
No, but so in Australia at the moment, if you they have actually self-isolation and quarantine and lockdown, all those sort of words are being thrown around at the moment. And if you go outside other than to work, you have to be defined as essential work. So if you go outside at the moment, anywhere besides buying food or going to the drugstore or going to work or something like that, then you'll be fined, and it's not even a joke fine. It's $1,000 or something.
Oh wow! So that
Yeah.
actually is it effective from what you're hearing?
Well, people are being fined for
Right.
it. There was like a group of people that went to the beach because it's still the tail end of summer, early autumn at the moment, so it's still nice weather, and people were fined for going to the beach. All the gyms are closed. One guy got fined trying to get into the gym because but they've forced it. All restaurants and cafes, all. They've forced them to close and stuff like that, and they've really taken it seriously. So in Canada, what's the situation like now? You've got the self quarantine and stuff like that going on, or
We do, yeah. I think, as far as I know, there's legislation that makes it illegal, and there are fines being handed out. I think there was a guy that had a possibly $100,000 fine in
wow.
Ontario, yeah, for
wow,
having a backyard barbecue.
oh wow, that's that's. I mean, they've got to get really strict about it. Okay, so
They should. And okay, so in Japan, right, because we don't have any legislation to make it illegal to go outside or to go hang out with your friends at the bar, or for bars to stay open, it's legal, right? People can do that, and business owners can make that choice. Is that what we need right now?
they have to be more strict. I mean, I understand the reason. I believe it's in the Constitution or something. They can't do
Yeah,
it.
that's right.
But and that's good for a lot of things. And you can always say tinfoil hat and say, well, if they change it now, if they change the Constitution now for this, who says what they'll use those powers for in the future? But I mean, if you're in a literal state of emergency and you've got people dying, hospital beds filling up, and that, and I mean, you have to do something because companies just won't close, and they don't care. Like the last in Osaka and Tokyo, the last couple of weekends, they've had requests for people to stay inside, and
They did, yes.
yeah,
Just for the weekend. Just for the weekend.
I mean, I went down to the supermarket, and I live near a large.
Oh, tisk tisk.
No, I live near a large park, and I saw people looking at the cherry blossoms in the park. All groups of old people in the park together, just hanging out, and I just thought to myself, I mean, why would you do that to yourself?
Why are you doing that? Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of this sudden increase in cases,
Yeah.
right? This started 3 days ago, where we started having over 100 people test positive. And just prior to that, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, we had, in Tokyo alone, there were 75 positive cases.
Yep.
Out of a total 150 tests performed.
Is that all the tests they did in a day in Tokyo?
In Tokyo, they did 150 tests in a day, 75 confirmed. That's 50%.
Isn't there like a population of around 20 million?
In the greater Tokyo area.
Wow. And
So
only
150 tests.
I'm sure a lot more people probably had the symptoms. So are people able to get these tests or?
No. I'll give you an example. Okay, I was sick
Yeah.
in February.
Okay.
I went to a large car show.
Yeah.
This is kind of just at the start of where we had the Diamond Princess outbreak happening, and I wasn't even thinking too much about it. I was like, yeah, well, I mean, it's on a cruise ship.
Well,
I did wear a mask, though.
Yeah.
I did wear a mask. Okay.
Yep.
I went to the show. I met with a lot of people. I tried to keep my distance. I was conscious about that.
Yes.
And about 2 weeks later, I had a bit of a fever, just a mild fever. I had pretty much every symptom aside from the high fever. I had coughing, runny nose, pain in the back of my head. It's kind of a really unique headache I've never experienced before.
Okay.
And that continued for about 10 days. It was really bad.
Oh, wow.
I've never had, like pollen allergies in February. I was having these kind of what was similar to like allergic reactions. And I went to the hospital. And the doctor, he had a feel of my neck. My lymph nodes were swollen. And he said, if it continues for more than about 4 or 5 days, you should contact the local phone number for testing. This is in Shiga, by the way, Shiga in Old City.
Yeah.
So it continued, and I got to the point where I was really worried. I called the number, I gave them my symptoms, and they said to me, unless you have a fever of over 38.5 for at least 3 days in a row, you can't get tested.
Well, that's a bit much, because that's like over 38.5 is I mean, that's like a full case of influenza.
Yeah.
That's enough to you'll be out
Right.
cold for that. You won't be getting
Right.
out of bed if you have that kind of fever. That's a
Right.
very high fever.
So I took it upon myself to find the hospital that was doing the testing.
Yeah.
And I just went straight down to the emergency room.
Yeah.
And I told them how I was feeling. I was feeling really, really fatigued. In Japanese, you say darui, which is basically like full body
Yep.
fatigue. And I just go up to the ER, and they put on gloves right away, mask, and they ushered me right down to the emergency
That was
room
just when
area.
they saw a foreigner, wasn't it?
Probably. But it was empty. The emergency room area was empty. There were no cases from what I could see. Nobody was lined up waiting to be seeing a doctor. So I didn't feel guilty about being there either,
Yeah.
given my symptoms. Like I said, I had everything aside from the fever. But I told them I had a fever.
Yeah.
I mean, it had gone, right? So they took a CT scan of my chest.
Yeah.
They gave me a blood test.
Yeah.
And the CT scan, they didn't show me or tell me anything, but they said, you don't have pneumonia.
Okay.
I said, well, I could pretty much tell from myself, but I wanted to see if I could get the test,
Yeah.
right? And so the blood test revealed that I had something that my body was fighting. So I had increased numbers of certain things, decreased numbers of others.
Yep.
And they said, you're battling something. I said, yeah, I'd like to get the test, so I know if I need to stay home, if I need to, stay away from my kids.
It was self-isolate, basically.
Yeah. And they said, yeah, okay. The guy, the ER doctor said to me, they have 15 test kits for all of Shiga. 15.
Well, isn't there only 30 people or something there?
To give you an idea, Shiga Prefecture has, I think, just going off the top of my head, I think they've got roughly 3 million people in the prefecture.
Okay, that's... Yeah, I actually didn't realize there was that many people there.
And they have 15 test kits for 3 million people.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? So the doctor said, okay, we'll give you a test.
Yeah.
He said, by the way, did you call the central, the kind of the hotline?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, yeah, I may have called it. I mean, they told me to come here.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell them that they rejected me over the phone.
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, we're just going to check with the hotline. By the way, the hotline is a phone number to the bureaucrats in City Hall. It's not to some specialist disease prevention hotline. This is just
someone
to the people who distribute those tests and delegate who gets what test, right? Or who gets how many tests.
So it's not even doctors. These are...
It's not doctors, no.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable. Wow.
So the ER doctor, from his own observation, decided I needed a test. So he says he's going to be right back. He goes out of the room. He contacts the center.
Yeah.
And he says, I have a patient here who is displaying such and such symptoms. Can we give him a test? And the hotline asks a couple more questions. I think the doctor may have said it was a foreigner. I mean, he's probably giving as much information as he has
You would expect.
to the hotline.
Yeah, you would expect.
And
that.
the hotline says, yeah, we had a phone call from a foreigner about an hour and a half ago. So the doctor comes back. He's like, "Did you call the hotline today?" I said, "Yeah, I called it about an hour ago, 2 hours ago." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then he leaves the room again. And from what I heard afterwards, the hotline said, "Yeah, that guy doesn't need a test."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, the doctor in the ER is ready to give me a test,
Yeah.
and some bureaucrat is telling him, "Well, no, we've only got 15 tests for 3 million people. So, yeah, let's just not give him a test and see how he does." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if the ER doctor, you would think that he would be able to make the call and say, this guy has the symptoms, and I mean, to be fair, on the phone, it sounds like you told them you don't have a fever, and then in the ER, you told them you did have a fever. So,
To be quite honest,
yeah,
I mean, at the time, over that 2 week period, I mean, I wasn't feeling great. I may have had a fever, but I didn't even check once. And
Yeah.
that's just the kind of person I am.
yeah,
I mean, if I have a fever, I have a fever. If I feel cold, I'll just get into bed. I don't need to check. I don't need to tell myself and confirm to myself that, yes, I have a, 37.4
yeah.
degrees Celsius,
You're not
slight mild.
you're not going to go, oh yeah, sorry, it was 38.3, so sorry, I don't think I deserve the test. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, I think that that's how a lot of people are, generally speaking, not just in Japan, but just generally speaking. If you're feeling a little bit down, feeling a little bit hot, you just get into bed or
I
take
would
off the.
I would go and sleep it off, try and sleep it off, and see if and see if I can get over it. It's better than just sitting there trying to take my temperature. If it was bad for a day or more, I might take my temperature.
Right.
Okay, so in the end, you didn't get the test.
No, I didn't get the test.
Okay.
And I went to work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And are you dealing, at your job, are you dealing with people directly, or?
I mean, I am and I'm not. I'm dealing with them over the computer, over the phone. But
Okay.
I mean, like, I went to work. I did what I needed to do to make money.
Okay. So,
But I have an English school.
yep.
I didn't go to work to teach kids that day. And I actually called in. I said, "Look, we're going to have to take a couple weeks off." So I haven't actually been to my classroom since I went to the hospital.
Okay.
Which is, I think, what you should be doing and what people should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Not to pat myself on the back, but like people need to get tested. It's ridiculous how few tests this country is doing.
Yeah, I mean, 15 tests for 3 million people. I believe in Italy, they, when they made everyone, they locked everyone down, then they just started testing whole towns where people were infected, like people who weren't infected. And then I believe South Korea has done this as well. And they're finding a bunch of people who don't have any symptoms, but were infected, and then spreading it around.
Yeah, these super carriers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, really, there must be a whole bunch of those here. Like, for example, me, I have to take the, I often take the train, the subway, and, it's riding the subway here, it's mayhem. You're literally interacting with thousands of people within, you're coming not just within 2 meters, you can't stay away. It's like 2 meters, there's 50 people around you because Osaka is a major city, and it would only be.
Can you imagine Tokyo? Because Tokyo is even worse.
Oh yeah, it would be definitely worse in Tokyo. So, I mean, they have to. Circling back to where we were going before, is that they have to lock it down, force companies to close, and then get people off the trains, get people out of unnecessary work. They have to do something because. I mean, I understand people need incomes and that the government has to support the businesses or something. And because it's just these people are getting it in, like there was a whole, they call them here cluster.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the English too, but they call it cluster. And there's been a bunch of them where people have been still going to nightclubs and that sort of thing, and bars, and it's just like, why are you still going to bars especially nightclubs and that? I mean, the government just needs to step in and say, sorry, we're going to close you down, but because there's no laws for it,
right?
They're powerless. And I mean, I think if they could, they would actually do it.
Right.
But by declaring a state of emergency tomorrow, and then saying to businesses, we really think you should shut down, and to the people, we really think you should stay home. I mean, it's underwhelming, and as sad as it is to say, unfortunately, some people are going to die from that.
Mm-hmm.
And
they are already. I think we've had almost 90 people died so far. I'm sure there are more, but they never tested those people that passed away, so we don't know what they died of.
Well,
exactly.
They're saying that the number of pneumonia cases that people died of this year has increased. So,
surprise.
Yeah. So, but I mean, do you think that it could have been done any differently leading up to this point? Because we're here now.
Absolutely.
Yes. So today and yesterday and the day before in Tokyo, I believe Tokyo alone got over 100 new. Yesterday and the day before, each day, I think they got 100 new cases or so a day.
I think it was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, they had over 100.
Yeah. So,
and then yesterday or today, it was down to 80, but that's only because it was the weekend and there were less cases reported. So we're on an upward trend for sure, and we're about to explode.
Yeah. So there's a website out there. I think it's COVID-19 Japan or something. You can search for it. And it has a really good graphs and stuff, and you can see the projection charts, and they really show where it's going and how it's changed over the last week or so. And now, I don't want to sound, I'm going to put this out there.
Mm-hmm.
Before they announced the
Olympics. No, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Before they announced the suspension of the Olympics, it was really surprising such a low number of cases, and then after they announced it, suddenly the cases shot up. Now I don't know if that's a coincidence or not.
Do you happen to remember what day they announced the Olympic postponement?
I'm not sure, but I remember looking at it. It was I'd have to be about 2 weeks ago now, almost.
Yeah,
a week and a half.
That's exactly when the cases started jumping. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just the cases skyrocketed from there, and I mean, I don't know if it was just the timing of people.
Yeah. You do know. Go on, say it.
Well, it's awfully suspicious that the numbers were so low until they announced that, and then suddenly they announced it, and the thing is, it's not just me saying this. A lot of people are saying it.
Right.
And it's nice, how, like, you have to sort of think, are the government capable of that? I don't know.
Are they capable of corruption? Oh, come on. But Japan is the white-collar crime capital of the world. Well, of course they're capable of it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of money on the line, and we don't know what... Like, this is all, of course, for the listeners out there, this is all speculation. I have no proof, but a lot of people are talking about this here, and I'm not sure if you will hear this kind of information outside of Japan, but people here, especially in the expat community, they're directly saying that, hey, the number of cases exploded as soon as the Olympics were postponed.
I think the expat community in Japan is some of the smartest group of people in the country. When like among just general citizens, we have. I don't again. I don't want to sound like I'm boasting. We have our ears to the ground, and we're used to politicians fucking up in our home countries, and we're on it, right?
We're automatically.
We are very passionate about politics and making sure people are accountable, because that's one thing that Japanese politicians are not accountable.
We're automatically skeptical.
Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, until March 23rd, there had been at most 62 new cases in a day. That was March 14th.
Okay.
54 new cases March 20th. We had a little spike around the 10th, 11th, 12th, but nothing over 60. Then March 24th, the next day, 72. 97, 103, 114, 198, 172, drops down one day, I think it was on Monday, 87, and then we're back up 245 each day, new cases in Japan. And then it's going way up. April 5th, 351. I'm sure we're going to hit 400 today or tomorrow. It's beyond suspicious that the government would cancel the Olympics. And then, you know what it is? They didn't want to test people. That's what I think it is. They didn't want to test people before the Olympics was postponed because they wanted to have their damn fucking games.
Okay, so
they canceled the Olympics and then they started testing people, and lo and behold, it's everywhere.
Okay, so I just looked it up now. March 24 looks like the day they announced it. So what do we...
And that's exactly it. March 23rd, 40 cases. March 24th, 72, 97, 103, 114, 198. And then it just goes skyrocketing. It's
just amazing how it stayed so low for so long. And I get it that people, when they... when more people get it, it spreads easier because, these people have meet a lot more people, and, there's people around them that get it. And
by the way, I went to the hospital for that to see if I could get that test. March 16th. On March 16th, 16 new cases. So,
wow.
You can't tell me that there were only 16 new cases on that day in the whole country.
Well, I mean, I think there were cases that actually were back before February as well. That, I personally think they should have shut the airports and established a quarantining.
I agree completely.
Earlier, yeah. But I mean, they didn't want it. I mean, for whatever reason, they didn't do it, and it's getting worse now.
The airports are still open too.
I mean,
like what the hell?
I mean, people are still coming back to Japan and that, but they're not letting people in. It's if you leave now, you can't come back, even if you're a permanent resident or anything like that. Which I guess is good, but
it's just same old. Too little, too late by this government.
Yeah, and so there's another website that's actually in Japanese. It shows the number of infectious disease beds in Japan by prefecture, and I can't think of the name now because it was in Japanese.
Is it stopcovid19.jp?
I'm not sure. Does it have a map of Japan with the beds?
No, it's English, but that's another good website right there.
Okay.
Stopcovid19.jp. It's in English. So
okay,
right now the bed occupancy rate is at 62%. Estimated.
This one breaks it down by prefecture, right? And they were saying that they showed this was, when I looked at it, was at least a week ago, and so Osaka was already over capacity for infectious disease beds.
Okay, I think I'm looking at the website now. So what I can see, if you go to stopcovid19.jp, it shows the active cases. Followed by the number of hospital beds for infectious diseases. Ishikawa, Fukuoka, Kyoto, Gifu, Tokyo, and Kanagawa, those 6 prefectures show overcapacity currently. Osaka is at 50%, roughly. 324. However, this data might not be up to date.
Yeah, because
looks like it's a little bit
it might have changed a bit, but it's when it's... this it looks like similar data, but it might have updated or something like that. But when I checked it, Osaka was already over. The number of beds has changed. That's what it was.
They've increased the number of beds.
Yeah, I've even heard they're putting what do you say? People who aren't as sick but are in hospital, they're putting them in hotels now.
Right.
So I believe the Appa Hotel chain, which is a really good business hotel. If you come to Japan, I recommend that. We're not
For anyone who doesn't know about Appa hotels, they are dirt cheap for a reason. And the reason is because their chairman is
well. However, it's pretty good value for money. If you don't
mind supporting. I've stayed there. I'll tell you right now, full disclosure, I've stayed there because it's cheap.
Okay, so let's not try and get sued on our first podcast, but yes, no, it's good to see that Osaka's increased their thing. But yeah, some of those places like it's not looking good.
It is not. No.
I mean, Shiga's even at 50%, and that's
yeah.
But I mean, living in a big city like Osaka, it really makes you wonder. Because you are constantly around other people, you really can't escape it. Even if you go to the supermarket, the supermarkets are full. And so, of course, because of because they are announcing the state of emergency tomorrow, which of course has no fines and is not really enforceable.
Has no teeth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, of course, Japanese people are going out and panicking about...
Oh, real? Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're panic buying. So you remember with the toilet paper situation?
Right.
Which happened around the world, but it also happened here in Japan. And so now people are going to the supermarket today and buying as much as they can because they think they won't be able to get anything. But they've come out and said, all the supermarket chains have come out and said, we have lots of stock. We've got more coming in. Please do not panic buy. But for some reason, every single time this kind of thing happens, then it's always panic buying. So if you happen to be in Japan and one of these disasters or, before a typhoon comes or something like that, just buy a bit of extra food because you don't have to panic buy, but make sure you buy a little bit extra where you have a few days extra food or something like that because people will panic buy as much as they can and needlessly.
Right. And that creates this unfortunate circle where people who aren't panic buying have to buy because there's low stock. Well, like with the toilet paper, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't panic buying. I see the toilet paper stock is out. 6 places in a row I go to. I just needed toilet paper.
Yeah.
I needed like a pack. I didn't need 500 rolls.
Yeah.
But everywhere is sold out. Finally, I get to like place number 7 and they've got like 6 rolls left, 6 like bags left. I bought an extra bag because here I am thinking, if everyone's rushing to buy toilet paper, how long is it going to be sold out for? How many days or weeks? And it ended up being sold out, at least in my area, for 2 months. Well, so yes, I'm lucky I did actually buy an extra bag.
Here in Osaka, it was sold out for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. Three were able to go to the drugstore and buy some, but you couldn't get it everywhere, and you couldn't have your choice of brands. But I mean, you still can't even get masks are really hard to come by. Alcohol.
Can you get masks? Can you right now? Locally?
Well, we've got them, but I don't know. We haven't really checked the stores. But
did you panic buy masks?
No, my wife got them through her work. So
okay,
yeah,
she's lucky.
Yeah, we've been sharing them around with family, her family, because we had extra, and no one can get them because everyone panic bought.
So they bought to resell online, which is disgusting.
And that's another thing that people were. I mean, Yahoo Auctions, which is I'm sure a lot of people know that, and Mercari are 2 of the biggest reselling sites for used goods and stuff like that here in Japan, and they've actually banned the selling of masks and that sort of thing, which was a really good move. So hopefully those people are stuck with those masks or start to give them out or something because.
Hey, and fear not, you're going to be getting 2 masks for your entire household in a matter of weeks from the government. 2 cloth cotton masks.
So can you tell me a bit more about that? I read something that we're all getting 2 masks, but can you explain it a bit more in detail for our listeners who aren't in Japan?
Well, I don't have all the details myself, but from a news report late last week, the Prime Minister announced that not each household, 50 households, 50 million households will be getting 2 masks per household. So that's 100 million masks.
And what kind of masks are these?
These are he says cloth, so I would just say cotton.
Okay.
It's similar to like a gauze.
Okay.
A gauze mask.
Are they're reusable, right?
Well, that's what they're saying. You're supposed to wear one and wash the other one, and you rotate. But that makes no sense unless you're single. Because you have, in most households, and a household is basically defined as one koseki is a household. So a koseki is a Japanese registry, a family registry. And a family registry can include as many people as are in that family. But it can start with 1. So one person could get 2 masks in one household, and then another household could have 6 people in the family, and they could also only get 2 masks. So it just makes no sense how they're making this decision that the house gets 2 masks. It should be the people in the house should each get 1 mask.
Or, well, at least 1, because, I mean, how do you even choose who gets the masks, Right,
because there's 58 million households in Japan, but only 50 million households get masks. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to start with Shiga, remove them from the list, and go, with all the other rural prefectures that, don't have any symptoms or cases, and just forget about them and give the masks to the big cities. That's what I think is going to happen.
Well, I mean, not being biased because I live in a big city, but I mean that's where a lot of the people are getting sick is in the big cities. So, but I mean, I'm just trying to think what you would do as a family. Do you have to say to your son, "Oh, sorry, son, we love your daughter more. We love our daughter. We love your sister more." And we think she's got more potential. So unfortunately, she's going to get the mask, and you have to go without. And you just have to hope if you make it through. And if you make it through, well, guess what? You're going to sleep under the stairs anyway, because don't forget, we hate you. As how do you decide who gets?
Yeah, well, hopefully, if we're speaking about young people and kids, I think schools are going to be closed. This emergency declaration is not exactly related to schools. It's just for the 8 largest cities or prefectures. However, schools across the country are making decisions on their own to close. Sorry, school boards are making those decisions. Kyoto just announced this evening, that they will be closing schools from the 10th of April. So from the 7th, tomorrow, April 7th to April 9th, they're going to be going to school. And then from the 10th, they're going to be off for a month, which makes no sense.
Well, good thing the virus knows to just stay dormant from the 7th until the 10th.
Right.
Yeah, and so...
Another shake your head.
Well, I believe Osaka is until Golden Week. I don't know for sure. I believe Tokyo as well. But so Golden Week's
Golden Week is
end of this month starts and goes into the start of May. But so
it's Japan's 1 week national holiday.
Yeah,
it feels like we've been on holiday for the last month though already. But
So, but do you know what? I can tell you that I see kids outside every day playing in groups in
Oh
the
yeah,
park
yeah.
with the parents. The parents are all standing around together. The kids are all pushing each other around and
Yeah,
doing
this is
what
a
kids do.
worldwide issue
Yeah.
with
So
parents just not
instead of
keeping their
being
kids inside.
instead of being in a classroom together, they're outside doing the exact same thing
Yeah,
together. So,
absolutely no sense.
so
It doesn't make
this
sense.
is why, and I understand kids need exercise, but I would say that the government has to do something. They need some emergency powers because
Hmm.
people,
I hate to say it, but you're right. I hate to say it.
yeah, people aren't taking it honestly. I've been saying this to a couple of people recently, and but I mean, people aren't taking this seriously enough, and
Hmm.
it's only going to get. It sounds alarmist, but I believe it's only going to get worse from here. If you look at the graphs, and if
Hmm.
yeah, and people are being so blasé about it. You still see people now out and about. The not washing their hands properly. They don't care about. They flaunt the government says please stay inside unless you have to do something. Like go food shopping or something like that. And then they're
Hmm.
just out and about doing that stuff. They don't realize that they could. If it's not, they think, oh, I'm fine. I'm young, I'm healthy. If I get it, oh well, big deal. But they don't realize that then they go and see their family members, and they might go and, they
Yeah.
might meet with grandma or something, and grandma can't get past. Grandma won't be able to get past it, and then I think it would take, as sad as it sounds, I think it's going to
Hmm.
take something as serious as
More
as
dead people.
yeah, as them actually being affected directly, a family member or someone they directly know, for it to be able to, for them to realize, hey, I better stay inside and do that. But
Yeah.
all right, so look, I think we've covered quite a bit about what's happening in the current state of Japan with the COVID-19 outbreak. So why don't
It was
we
good talking to you. Yeah.
yeah, why don't we leave it there? And what we'll do is we'll hopefully try and make this a regular thing, and we'll keep listeners updated with what's happening here on the ground in Japan. And hopefully, we can give you that perspective that you can't get from reading news articles in English that probably aren't as comprehensive. So, yes, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, we'll see you again in the next one.